a topping running through the events and phenomena in the world. Let us start from the beginning. Reification. This is made from a tree, wood. Millions of years in evolution that resulted in a tree. Would this tree here be without the sun? Would I stand here? No, this is the solar system, the basic idea of this tree that will turn to coal and nothingness in hundreds of thousands of years of time, if not even more. It's the reification. The substasis is how it descended into being, how the universe came into being, how the forces came into being, how the powers came into being, how they reified themselves into stars. From the physical objective perspective, we have the Big Bang theory, we have the redshift phenomenon, we have all the ideas of stars forming in nebulous gaseous clouds and all that, rotation. So, that is the reification of physical objective sciences. What is the metaphysical metastasis? Metastasis is either mathematical, like in the Pythagorean Tetractys, it is Protean, as in Egypto-Hellenic beliefs, and so on and so on. But these beliefs, these myths, those legends, those religions attempted to convey through reified human stories and narrations the stories of great profound powers, how they came into being, how they at the very end reified into this piece of wood. So I'm demonstrating this because every magician, at least those practicing the subtle art of metaphysics, the philosophy of metaphysics of essences, true meaning of philosophy as the love of wisdom, is a way of seeking and perceiving from the perspective of a metastasis. For example, the sun, the physical star, with all the thermonuclear fusion, hypergranulation, flares, CMEs, 12-year repolarization cycles, and all that. Solar wings, stellar magnetism. This is the physical stuff. Now, if you look from the philosophical perspective, it is a deity. Deity as Apollo or Helios, a collective of intelligences, oneness in itself. And we may speculate that it is protected also by its own field, a philosophical, essential, magical field, protected by Sekhmet, Hathor and Bast. Now, if we go deeper, we may analyze the attributes of those goddesses and think, why did the Egyptians think that Ra is protected by those three goddesses? We may think in Chaldean ways that called the sun the corridor of fire. It was both a god, an inspiration, a life giver, a star, and a corridor of fire. To whence? Well, to the third teletharkic reality. That is the reality of Ion, then Hyperion, then Monad, Proteus, as a form of a hierarchy. Of course, we know that stars in 3D move through the galaxy, in star clusters and all that. However, if we transcend the idea, we need to hierarchize certain motions. We cannot see those forces, but they are integrated within the system of the universe. We may perceive the divine fire, the divine illumination in certain cases, if our spirits are bathed in the divine fire, or in the abyss, Tartarus, or in the fires of magma, of earth, or in any other place that we may perceive and interpret back through visions, dreams, and great revelations back into our mind that interprets it in a hermeneutic task. That is, we are hypophets. That is, we interpret according to our socio-historical knowledge, mind, perception, intelligence, what we are capable of understanding, because we cannot grasp the ultimate truth as category of the universal. Therefore, each time you walk around, most people perceive what they see. They are very oriented on sight and thought. So I may observe the surroundings, I may also visualize it and see a shadow there and then narrate from the nearby river there, and think evolutionarily, this narrate has a history, this particular demon has a history. So everything has a beginning and an end, which is shorter or longer of lifespan. For example, in Hindi, they believe that Nagas and Naginis, raw ethereal creatures, the serpent creatures, lived for 500 to 700 years. It was speculated that the solar phoenix may be seen once in 500 years' time. Perhaps because people in the past used to see much more than we do nowadays. But do we stop at this site? At the autophaneia, self-manifestation of the spirits, of the gods, of the great wings? We know that it is merely a representation, a token of something much greater. And the deeper we go, the more we understand, with all due respect to individuated powers, that the metastasis of the emotion of powers, forces, taking on masks in the whirlwind, as Democritus put it, of individuated characteristics, is to understand the causality of the world. And it is not that simple as above, so below, but it is as in motion and change of forces. So it is reified in various possible circumstances, from potentialities to actualities on Earth and elsewhere. So, and if we attempt to understand the world by looking at it only and thinking about it and studying it, we may be studying the symptoms of the world. But to reach for the etiology of the world, as a medical professional would say, would be to study the philosophical metastasis, the powers and the forces. We do not scorn social and strict sciences, we educate ourselves to order it better. But then again, we try to deduce and induce what the powers, what the world, what the forces in motion, in change, are trying to teleologize, that is, aim at something. Motion has a vector, therefore it has an aim, therefore it is teleological. And there are many teleologies or aims in this karma, in this inclination. And if we can extract or deduce at least some of them, we may try to understand the changes and motions that we may observe in the world, in the behavior of humans, animals, societies, and so on. And this is the tool that humanity once invented, namely astrology. Astrology is much abused nowadays. It was primarily developed as a tool to better capture those potentialities that may be actual, may not. On a scale of kingdoms, empires, and so on and so on, until the Hellenes introduced personal astrograms, as in 4th, 5th century before modern era, taken over from Babylonians. Babylonians didn't have personal astrocharts as such. It was related to the kingly honors and to the kingdom or an empire at large, the prostasis and substasis, the idea of predicting certain omens and things. So how can you reach this metastasis or the figment of understanding of those powers? It is requiring great concentration, meditative absorption, reception, And once you have an idea, understand, and it is honest and reverberant, once you have a vision, a greater outlook, perhaps you may see some ideas of futures taking shape, but never the truthful future. That's why fortune tellers and so-called clairvoyants always go wrong for most of the time. Because time and eventa are very complex.